Good morning. Welcome to Questions with Connie. Today, our first featured guest is Sir Smith.
Lady
How are
Nine.
you doing, Sir Smith?
I'm doing excited, very excited about this, that our former marketing department just went ahead and put together and put me on the hot seat for. So this is going to be great.
Our former marketing department?
Yeah, we're going to fire them all.
Okay. I guess we'll start with Mitchell since this is his brainchild. Well, I'm glad to see you. I would like to see you be more of the face of VIR so people would quit looking at my gray-haired mug. Wrinkles.
Nope. Lady Nyholm, face of VIR, here in eternity.
For now. So, well, let's get into it. Tell us a little bit, Kerrigan, about what you do for VIR.
I try to keep Connie Nyholm happy on a regular basis. That's my whole priority. I don't know. I try to be a team player, try to get everybody going in the same direction, try to communicate, try to think if whatever we're doing, what's the ripple effect of any change we make? What does it do for us? There's just so much to take into factor, and it's so hard to tell people what you do, but you just try to make sure everybody has the same experience when they come here and have an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think you do a great job at it, and we're a good balance for one another.
Yes.
In my humble opinion. So how did you get started in motorsport?
My dad was always really into cars and didn't really know how to get into them, and was financially able to get into them much later in my life when I was grown up. And he invited me and my wife out to an event that was being held here, the G&W Fall Fling. We came out, and it was really neat. It was about 2001. VIR had just reopened, kind of things getting going. And my still longtime friend, Carissa Cobb, Price Cobb's wife, who I worked with, came up to me while we were there at that event. And she was like, hey, it looks like you could fuel a race car if you needed to. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And she was looking for volunteers, and I signed on with them. And right off, I went to Daytona for the 24-hour race. And from there, it just, it's never a day of work. Loved every minute of it, and just tried to take every opportunity that came my way. And I was very, very lucky and got into some things that I probably had no business being awarded, but I was grateful that I was. So,
because when you finished your career with Synergy Racing, which G&W eventually evolved into, I think you were the general manager of the team.
Yeah, titles are titles. There was nobody left, so it's kind of they had to give me some title. But
it was a championship-winning team, and I can see in your background in your office some of the photos from those days. So.
Yeah, it was fun. We developed a customer program when things kind of tanked around 2008 and sponsorship dried up. I mean, we had a lot of good things going, and just Danny and Cole and the program that they wanted to run, it was really, really special, and I was glad I got to be a slice of that history.
Yeah. When I was growing up, one of my favorite sayings of my dad's was, if you want to be a landlord, think like a tenant. And so to me, having you on our team, and especially as president and COO, just brings that whole perspective of the other side of the fence to our side of the fence. How was that the transition for you?
It was funny. I remember the day that I walked up to you and even asked you if I could apply for the position, and you were like, "Oh yeah, sure. That's a great idea." Because I remember I remember going home when the day that I heard that Josh Leaf was no longer at VIR and he left. I went home and I said to my wife, I was like, "Wow. Josh is no longer there at VIR. What an opportunity for them to get somebody in there that's going to see the vision of that place, love the place, and give it just what it needs." And, my wife was like, "Dummy, that's you. Why don't you go ahead and submit your resume? And I was like, oh my God, no, no way. And you know me, I can't even write my own resume. It's like that's like the biggest torture you could ask me to do. And I was like, all right, I started to warm up to the idea. And when I came and talked to you and started talking, it was really interesting. And, you were giving me a glimmer of hope. And then I got together with Harvey and he's like, oh no, heck no, I need a lawyer. I don't need you. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I've been around a lot of racetracks. I kind of understand, I have lots of friends in the paddock, and I remember I was the day that you came and told me I got the job, I was standing on pit lane and I was, we were having all these problems with a customer car, and there I literally was standing on the pit wall, which was a no-no. And you were coming over, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm pretty sure she's going to tell me to get down from pit wall. What are you doing?" And you're like, "Hey, you got the job if you want it." And I was like, yeah, thank you." So
it wasn't for your resume.
Yeah,
it did suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you've been awesome. I mean, so we have together developed a lot of the vision for VIR since you came aboard. So what has been your favorite part of that process?
I think it's been the people recognizing that there has been a vision and a process, and people enjoying some of the change. I remember when we started putting out the FIA curbing, I thought you were going to fire me, actually, because it was just like everybody freaked out, and it was pretty bad. But once people started understanding what we were going after and what the ultimate goal was, and started getting used to it, I think once that was probably the biggest change that we made first. And then from there, we just started making little changes here and there, and people started seeing how one tied into another. And hopefully we continue to do that, because it's not like we just make a change to make a change. It's, okay, well, this is the ripple effect. We made this change because now we're going to make this change, and this change is coming. And I think I've enjoyed having the ability to come talk to you and share a vision. And not only is it my vision, but then you also say, hey, also, let's look at it from this perspective. And then it's something that we bring team and staff into. And we even sometimes get the renters or sanctioning bodies input as well. And it's interesting how it comes together and hopefully benefits everyone.
Yeah, I think going back to the curbing, that brings back the memory that some of the early images were taking in counter race, and so it looked like the curbs would just rip your knees off if you were a motorcycle rider, but that wasn't the case, of course. One of my favorite experiences with you in bringing a facility forward was when you were interviewing so many of the drivers and sanctioning bodies about the track widening. I mean, a lot of thought went into that, and I thought the way you solicited the input was really neat. So how many did you talk to?
Well, so I'm sure you remember there was the one of the drivers had an incident getting onto pit lane, and from that came a pretty much went around and got everybody to sign a petition on, hey, you guys really need to think about what you're going to do with your pit entry here. And I think there was about 26 signatures on that petition that was handed to us. And I was really surprised, actually, because there was quite a few people that I knew and kind of felt like would have called me if they signed something like this. So I was like, I need to get on the phone and start having conversations with people and find out what's going on here. And it was a perfect time. The timing couldn't have been better, because we had already had the discussion of widening and what we were going to do. And if we were already here, why not go ahead and do this? So that was one of those where the timing of the drivers' concerns and them speaking out and us being able to converse with each and every one of them and get their feedback also led to so many other things, and opened up the avenue to talk about things like the widening and barrier placement and, curbing and runoff areas. The thing that I think I enjoyed the most with so many of those, what I really would consider the elite pro drivers, were so adamant about not losing what VIR is, a vintage track that was built before lawyers and engineers. How do you keep this to not have paved runoff? How do you have a track that has consequence, that has challenge, that has excitement, and being able to make some of these changes so that it's not a vintage track, but it doesn't lose the spirit, the ethos of what it is. So that to me was very, had great conversations and just an unexpected benefit.
Yeah, that's it was a very interesting time, and I really am thankful for the team pulling together that, and that you're not turned off by any means of change, and going head on to have the discussions that we need to have to make us better, because we're pretty transparent around here, as I hope our listeners know. Who's the coolest person you've had the chance to meet at VIR?
Well, I can't say one person for sure, because there's been a couple that really kind of catch you off guard. We had Tom Christensen out here, which just, I've always been a 24-hour Le Mans Audi fan and love that. Mark Webber, when he came out, I mean, he was driving amazing cars. And for him, when they asked him the question of what was the thing that caught you the most off guard today, and when he said it was VIR, because I had no idea. I didn't know what we were doing. And then there's been, on the other side of what we do, there have been some true American heroes and special forces that have come back and I've been able to meet. And, it's been really impressive talking to some of those humbling people. Our audience changes, our client changes on a daily basis. And I think that's what's so kind of exciting is you get to see a different, really a different person on any given event, and you don't know when they're going to show up, because they just show up. They don't tell you they're showing up, and all of a sudden you stumble on them and you're like, oh my God, I had no idea you're going to be here.
Yeah, that is pretty much fun. So what do you and your family like to do when you're not here? Because I love seeing your girls here.
Yeah, so sometimes it's kind of funny. They'll be like, Dad, let's go to VIR for the weekend. I'm like, oh my God, I just give me just 2 days off, but they really love coming here. We go hiking. We try to do a lot of that. The girls are getting a little bit older, so they usually want to hang out with the other kids in the neighborhood, but we're those get lost in nature types, and kind of go have fun, have a new experience. But we have such a good neighborhood that they just want to stay around there and play with their friends. So, but anywhere we can go, if we're heading up into the Roaring Gap area or Blowing Rock or any of the nice areas here down in North Carolina.
Cool. You finally took a vacation.
Yes.
I think you went back to your past. Tell us about that.
So, it's pretty bad when you have a 14-year-old daughter and you kind of realize she's never really officially been on spring break. And, you're like, oh, we kind of actually need to do something about that. So my wife and I met each other in Breckenridge, Colorado. I worked there for a bunch of years. She worked there for a bunch of years. And we wanted to take our girls back to Breckenridge, Colorado, and so that we could kind of show them, our favorite stomping ground and everything that we loved. And it was just a great trip. We had lots of snow, and the girls just had an absolute blast, and they did so well going down the hill. The funniest part of the trip was we would take them to some of the places that, we lived when, you were scraping pennies together to make ends meet. And they were just so blown away. There's no way Mom would stay there. Just no way, And, it's like, hey, that's what we had to do. But it was kind of funny. And going back to those places, it brought a lot of good memories. It was a fun trip.
That's cool. And were you snowboarding?
Yes. Addison and I were snowboarding, and Mom and Harper were skiing. So,
Oh, cool. So I know you were a ski lift mechanic back then. What was Kate doing?
she was an adaptive ski instructor. So she worked with this group called the BOEC, the Breckenridge Outdoor Education Center, and she would literally uh, work with tethering down people who were in bucket skis, who were, paraplegic, handicapped, or anything like that, that wanted to have the experience. So she's a tough cookie. She can hold her own. She's wrestling that stuff around and giving them an amazing experience.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And she married you, so she's got to be a tough cookie.
Yeah.
So do you think having those kind of experiences back in those days has kind of transitioned now to some of the charity work we do with the Petty's Camp, Victory Junction, because there's so many challenges there, and it's heartbreaking, but it's also heartwarming to be able to do things with them.
Yeah, and I think it's you have to find that balance of trying to maintain what you need to do being for profit and what you need to do for charity, and finding those charitable causes that really relate to your DNA and that people can get behind. The Victory Junction, just being able to tie in with them and have that instant relationship to anybody who knows about the Petties and knows what they're doing. And then Petty's Garage. And then there's been a little bit of crossover with, Thad Moffat has gotten into a little bit of road racing a little bit here and there. So it just really was kind of fun how a lot of this stuff has, just landed in our lap to be able to create this experience that you get to drive on a track that, is related to track, a track kind of has track history in their charity. And then when you go out to the camp and you just go see these kids that are facing so much adversity, just smiling all the time and having fun, it's pretty hard to be so self-absorbed in the bad day you had when you see what they're doing. So it puts a little spring in your step. And then what we're getting ready to do with, CKG charity, the Catherine Foundation, where we're looking at teen mental health. I mean, what better time to start looking at that after we've gone through this pandemic of, how do we, take somebody's vision of, Cameron Gallagher's vision of what she wanted to do with teens like herself that were struggling and, had doubt and had problems through social media. How do you raise awareness to that? I mean, what a perfect time to tie that all in as well.
Yeah, you're giving me goosebumps. Well, you kind of grew up in a household wrapped around doing good, shall I say. And your parents have been involved with collegiate school and as you said, are car guys. So we all love having them here owning a villa. I mean, how do you feel about that?
So it was kind of a funny story. Our mom's brother, my uncle, unfortunately passed a little too early, but left everything to my parents. And my dad kind of came over and he said, how long do you plan on being at VIR? I was like, Dad, that's a really odd question. Hopefully they keep me around for a while, but why do you ask? He was like, I want to spend your inheritance. And I said, well, that's great. I don't want a dime, and please do. And he said, well, I want to buy one of those villas. And he goes, I want to buy one of the race cars that you built when you were there with Synergy Racing. So I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And, I'm thinking to myself, they might be there once a month, maybe to check on it or come up there once in a while. It's like, there's no way Mom's going to want to be at the racetrack. Dad's just going to clutter it up with all his man cave stuff. And, it's just, they're going to be at the beach as much as possible or in Richmond. And I just had no idea that, they were pretty much going to be here twice, if not three times a month on a regular basis for a week at a time. And and have this as their community. I mean, dad's like, it's a gated community. I like to say I live in a gated community.
Yeah, for sure.
And so then the first thing I had to establish is, getting with staff and being like, okay, no favors for them. They need to be treated as everybody else. Don't let them pull the Kerrigan card or try to do anything, just keep them in line. And I think for the most part, they do pretty well at that.
I think they get more insider information from me than you.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to watch what you say around them, because they'll get the inside line. But it's funny, their house has kind of turned into so many people that I've known through the years in motorsports will just show up and be like, hey, can I do laundry really quick? Or they'll just show up, and all of a sudden mom is just loves to entertain, and so does my father. So anytime they show up, like all of a sudden they'll just pull out this whatever, and be like, hey, why don't you eat?
Yeah, their
it's
guest
like
book must be worth $1 million.
it's like an extended family, it's kind of fun.
Well, they're very gracious, and I certainly have enjoyed getting to know them, and getting, like you, talking to drivers and getting feedback on things. They're cut from the same cloth, so it's good that we get a lot of different perspectives, and you get kind of caught in the middle of that. But there you go.
Oh yeah, dad's not too shy on coming in and saying, hey, have you looked at this, or have you thought about this? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I know. I can tell if he's asked dad and didn't get the answer he wants and comes to mom.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite thing about VIR, Kerrigan?
The people here. Everybody is here that wants to be here. I don't feel like anybody's like, oh, got to go into the office today. It's when not only just employees, but when people come here for an event, it's just like you'll hear them say, oh my God, it is so good to be back. I've missed this place. And it may have just been a month since they've been here, but having VIR as people's happy place is just truly amazing to me. I mean, it really is. To be able to work at a place where people are just so excited to be here and so happy, and it gives them so much joy. And it's just even them rolling through the gate, they have that much joy. That's special. That doesn't exist everywhere, or not anywhere. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
I agree. I mean, I did retail shopping center development before this, and nobody really needs another McDonald's or Rite Aid.
Right.
But when Harvey and I started VIR, that was my favorite thing too. I said, no one comes here because they have to. Right. No one, whether it's a fan or a renter or a staff person or a delivery person. I mean, it's just, they've all chosen to be here for whatever reason that is. And it is very rewarding.
Yeah. I mean, I count my blessings on a daily basis. I'm like, how did I get this lucky? I mean, I've come to you and I said, thank you. Thank you so much for keeping me employed and keeping me here. I mean, it's just, it is just that special.
The privilege is mine, Sir Smith.
Thank you, Lena.
I know you're pretty good at Twitter and some other social media, and maybe not quite so much. I don't do any of that. Thank you, because you keep me informed and away from it. But how do you think that's helped us connect with our fan base, through the social media that you've been active in?
I wouldn't say I'm good at it. I would say that I follow specific things and stay up on the news with it. It is amazing to me how much motorsports news is there on Twitter if you wanted to find out about it. But I think the marketing department, Mitchell especially, David Baltazar kind of kicked us off in the right direction. And it is a way to engage with specific people that have a specific passion. And I think what I love is when you post that picture of something special at VIR, or the way the sun is setting, the way the mist is rolling off the Dan, just people just really react to that so greatly, and just it brings back memories for them. And I think that's what I love is, you hear so much positive. There's not like a lot of negative talk with VIR social media, because you're just putting out good vibes and getting good vibes back. So I guess with the cesspool of social media that's out there, it's kind of nice to have something of VIR that just brings a smile to your face when you see a lot of the things that are going on.
Yeah.
So.
Well, speaking of Mitchell, he put this together for us today, Questions with Connie, and he tells me we're going to do this on a regular basis, and then I'm going to get to meet all kinds of interesting people, whether they be, fans or drivers or team owners or other staff people or whatever. So I'm looking forward to continuing this process. As everyone knows, my main job here is making howdies.
Yep.
So when we have a spectator event, I'm out trying to meet up with new fans and ask them how they heard about VIR, and don't introduce myself until the end. And they say, but I saw you picking up trash earlier. And I'm like, well, yes, you did. But, I think you and I both just have no problem getting our hands dirty and, getting into the mix of things. So what is your most and least favorite part of your job? And then we'll close this out.
I mean, I love it all. So, I don't know that there's a most. Least is, sometimes not being able to react fast enough. If you identify something that needs to be taken care of, and it's something that's bothering somebody, or somebody's uncomfortable with something, not always being able to move fast enough to make everybody happy all the time. But, mostly I love when I get here to work every morning. I don't, I get here kind of early, and I kind of get to get my ducks in a row, and I think I have my day planned out. And I think I love the fact that, you can't plan the day out. It's going to change. Something's going to come up, and you're going to get pulled in a different direction. So, there's never a dull moment. And I think I love that the most about here at VIR.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Kerrigan. I think you've done a great job building a great team. We've put our arms around the whole traction process for those listeners who may be familiar with that. So, please get back with us with any suggestions of who you'd like for me to query next and what kind of questions you'd like to hear answers to. And feel free to look Kerrigan and me up when you're next at VIR. Come back, come off, and bring your friends. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks, Connie.
Thank you, Sir Smith.